So maybe at that point their kids would have birthright citizenship. I don't know.
But others are, including specifically temporary visitors. Third point, it makes sense that the drafters of the 14th Amendment adopted this jurisdiction requirement for citizenship, because what it does is aligns with the English common law, going back at least to Blackstone, indeed further than that, that under English.
Well, I see Lawyer Chick's here, so I'm going to pause this for now. The common law point's an interesting one. I need to get that. I need to get that going. Yeah. So, Smoke. What I was doing is I have a debate on birthright citizenship on the 8th. So I'm trying to see what some law professors say about birthright citizenship and try to learn the arguments. But that's not the main topic of the stream tonight. The main topic of the stream tonight is chatting with my friend Lawyer Chick, and perhaps a surprise guest, we'll see, about regulating AI, which I don't know that much about, but is a topic that I think I should learn about. So it will be an interesting one. And I have here, for reference, this is President Trump's December 11th, 2025 executive order regarding the regulation of AI, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, friend of the stream, welcome back, Lawyer Chick. Lawyer Chick, good to have you. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Actually,
well.
Let me check my mic. What mic am I on here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
I think, should I plug in my other one? I realized I didn't do that. Hold on.
Anybody in chat, how's your sound?
How's my sound? Let's see. Is this better? Is this better?
I mean, you're totally clear on my end.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to keep rolling with it. I might mess with the microphone a little bit. Let me make sure. Here.
Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. How have you been?
Yes, I've been good. Happy holidays to you. How are you doing?
You know, it's holidays are a whirlwind with kids and family and the whole thing. I had to write an appellate brief in the middle of it, so there's, it was a hectic couple days, but nice to be back. Nice to be back streaming, seeing all these degenerates who show up and listen to me talk sometimes.
I love it.
Great. How was yours?
It was good. I was with friends. It was really nice. New place for the Christmas Eve for me, and it was great. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And now I'm just kind of rolling into the new year. Do you argue your appellate briefs, or do you just submit them in writing?
We're gonna probably have to argue this one, but not for a few months. This is this one. We'll submit it in early January, and then they'll get their reply. And I suspect there will be, oral argument. I'm sure the other side's requested it, but it should be a pretty. I mean, knock on wood, it should be a pretty easy win. I don't think we have. I think they've come up with some very creative lawyering, but not exactly. I wouldn't call it meritorious. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, that's good. So that's positive, encouraging.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to ask, what you raised this topic when we were emailing. What's your interest in AI regulation? That's kind of a very kind of niche topic on some level.
I have a lot of interest in AI regulation for a couple of reasons. I mean, I'm a consumer of AI. I use AI for different purposes. It's huge in the legal world. I don't know if it's hit what you do yet, but aside from being a practicing attorney, I'm a paralegal studies professor. So I teach it quite a bit. And then in my own small practice, I've used it to, for transactional work and to enhance or draft or, different things. And then there's tons of software out there. And the brother who might be coming up, Streamrift, he actually has a product that uses AI to create prenuptial agreements for people. It's a paid legal tech product. Mm-hmm. And so I'm interested in what you think about legal tech using AI for profit and, things that people used to pay lawyers to do or seek counsel for, they can now use AI to draft all kinds of things, and it can be state specific. And even I'll go a step further why I'm interested in AI. I do a lot of legal research and I teach legal research. So I'm in Westlaw quite a bit. And Westlaw has a whole AI function now where you could just upload a brief and it will scan it, and then it will tell you what you could use, what case law, what primary, secondary, persuasive authority you could use to argue that brief in like a few minutes. Whereas, our mentors and our professors used to have to go to the law books to find that and go in the, what do they call the supplements and go into the registers and see what current case law is. And now it's like, and even when I was in law school, which wasn't that long ago, because I went back, my 30s, legal research was still like you shepherdized things. Even though we were online using Lexis and Westlaw, we were able to there was a sense of filtering and analysis you had to use to filter bad cases out, good law, things like that. And now it's done for you. So that to me is going to fundamentally change the profession, the practice of law. And then with all this self-help stuff online. And then the last reason I'm really interested in this issue is that my background is in grassroots political organizing, really from back, 20 years ago, and working at like local level, city council, school boards. I did union work. I was with the teachers union for years in California and just worked on a lot of local initiatives around pesticide use at schools, everything to like city ordinance level stuff. And what's happening now is local communities are trying to prevent data centers from being built in their communities, and states and now the Fed are passing regulations to prevent local communities and local jurisdictions from building and bringing these data centers in. So I have an interest there. It's personal. And my weird little hometown is like fighting. They're out in the streets because my city council of my hometown in South Jersey they tabled it because so many people came out, but they were actually going to float a $6 million loan to a data center for construction. Like the city council was going to loan low interest loan to a private company to build a data center that's going to create like 20 jobs, because data centers they're not job creators. That's the one thing that we used to use to encourage development, and I've worked with some land developers on the argument that it's going to create good jobs. We'll sacrifice some land to build this FedEx delivery center or whatever, because it's good jobs, union jobs, good jobs, whatever. But data centers ain't that. So there's a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
We're all over the place. But I want to know what you think legally.
You brought in a bunch of topics there. So just try to bucket them, because I think we're probably going to have to move through them with some structure. The first one was kind of like the impact on the legal profession, researching, drafting, writing. And I probably have a bunch I could say there. And then, there's kind of the secondary issue, which was the question of who regulates it and how. And then, should we have data centers in our backyard? Is it a good thing for our community? Is it actually helpful? So which is kind of like, maybe those two might be hard to separate, because, the question of who regulates is hard to separate from what the benefit and the trade-offs are. For your first question, Shapingro said this, the real question is about IP. If I say something in public and I have given permission for LLMs to train on it. So I will say, Shapingro, this is going to be an evolving area. And one difference, like with my firm's policies, for example, is that I am not permitted to upload a brief into an AI tool, not a publicly accessible one. For the reason.
So how about Westlaw?
No, I can't upload a brief. If I want to upload a brief, we need to contract to create a private LLM for the client and the work stream, because I can't put confidential information into a public database
What's
because
an LLM?
a language model, large language model. So yeah, so to Chipingro's point, he was talking about from IP perspective, like if an LLM trains on your song and then they make a new song, but it's derivative of your song, is that a copyright violation? And I think the answer is probably not, in much the same way that it's not a copyright violation for me to riff on somebody else's music. But in terms of my professional obligations, I have a professional obligation to keep my client's information private and confidential. And depending on the client, who may or may not authorize it, and depending on the sector, they might find the risk that you're giving their information to an LLM to be too much, right? So that I can't use it for that function. I do use it for other functions, but I think this is a big question, first of all, which is, if you give data to an AI or an LLM, whatever term you want to use, what can they fairly do with it in terms of copyright? And then as a secondary concern for lawyers who have a duty of confidentiality, are you maintaining confidentiality if you release information to an LLM? Now, oftentimes you just won't get caught. Because, like, let's say you put information in your draft and then you submit the brief 15 days later. Now the brief is public. So is anyone going to know that you shared that information in that 15-day window? Probably not. But that, I think that is a interesting question.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about, just in general, it replacing, or people thinking that it can replace legal services? Buyer
beware. Is what I would say. I don't think it actually replaces legal services. I think in my experience, and I do use it. In my experience, what AI is replacing is the amount of time I have to spend on research, and it is reducing, and it is replacing some of the time I would have farmed out to paralegals or analysts to do work. So in that sense, it's making my services cheaper, which is probably a good thing. Even like Westlaw's AI, which has the database of all the cases, makes catastrophic errors like you would not believe. Like, it is not trustworthy, and you cannot trust it.
Yep.
So it's not a replacement, at least not yet. I mean, it's really, really untrustworthy. I actually, one of the things I'm chiding the other side on, I think they used AI for a section of their brief, and they cite a case, and they cite the case for the proposition that, sorry, this is probably too in the weeds, but they're citing it basically to say that, like, international comedy would have a particular result, and the case did not.
International comedy? What do you mean?
Yeah, like deference to the laws of foreign jurisdictions.
Oh, okay. That's a term of art. I've never heard that. International comedy?
I do a lot of international litigations. This comes up a lot.
I love that.
But the case did not involve a foreign nation and had the opposite holding to the one that they described. Like it was literally, they were just
totally upside down.
But it is exactly the kind of thing AI would write.
Yeah.
Because what I found with it is, if you're doing legal research and you say, is there a case that says X? It wants to say yes. It says yes, and then it will misstate the whole, like, and this is crazy, by the way, on Westlaw, because in Westlaw, it has, Westlaw is a database for lawyers, so it has all the cases. So it'll say the case says X, and then you click on the link and go to the case, and it does not say that. So you have to be very careful with it, because it is not trustworthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it enhances the value of my time, for sure, with my work. I think it's a tool, and that's how I try and teach it. It is scary for people who haven't developed, though, those like young students or younger folks, or anybody who hasn't developed the skills of discernment, and then they use AI. Like, I have students, I can see in clients who are English as their second language, and I can see that they have used AI to write email responses to me. And I know that I've seen also other people that use it to write email responses and things like that. And I don't agree with that. I think people are going to start to rely on it too much, which kind of leads us to the data centers. I mean, it's also fun. I'm going to say this. I've just started editing pictures in it. It's great. It's so fun, but I'm worried about the water. I'm an environmental person. It sucks because I'm one of these like environmentalists who uses an iPhone, completely aware of where the coltan or the rare earth minerals come from and what people are going through to put them in my phone. Yet I use the iPhone, and AI, I kind of feel the same way. The dream interpretation, if you're interpreting your dreams, AI is like the best. Does a great job just to spit your dream in there, while it's still groggy and fresh. And it's just like amazing. So like, I do not want to lose that.
It's at its best when it can't be wrong. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, I guess so. But it's right. It's right.
But actually, the dream thing is an interesting example, right? Because, and I want to circle back to the water and the environmental stuff. But one of the things that, for example, Governor DeSantis in Florida wants to regulate and may not be able to because of the federal government's the executive order from Trump, is that he's concerned about young people, let's say like 16 and under, forming relationships with chatbots where they're, like imagine, like we're worried about the effect social media has had on young people. And there's starting to be like in, I think the UK and some other parts of Europe, they're starting to ban social media for people under the age of 16. And there's some data about how bad that's been for, people's social development. The idea there is like, if you have like an avatar, like Musk did for Grok, like there's an AI and it has a little face and it has a little outfit and it talks to you and it's your friend and it knows everything about you and you tell it your dreams and you tell it your hopes and you tell, what's this going to do to a generation of kids, right? And I don't think we know the answer to that question. I probably nothing good, I would guess. But that's the trick, right? Like, so it's like when you're talking about regulation, I think there's one part which is zoning, water usage, commercial use, that sort of thing. And then the other issue, and then there's, copyright, legal confidentiality, kind of professional usage like we've talked about. And then there's the other issue, which is just social. What's it going to do to people's jobs? What's it going to do to people's lives? What's it going to do to our kids? And I think each of those warrants some discussion in terms of what regulations we think are appropriate and who should do them.
Yeah. And not just kids being creating relationships with AI, but adults. I mean, it can have a voice. You can create a friend. You can create a therapist that you can talk to, that will talk back to you, that will talk in the tone that you want it to talk to you in. And that's something to consider for adults.
Yeah. I mean, I think with adults, we always have kind of a
filter.
Well, it's up to you, right? There's a wonderful, like I'm going to be paraphrasing. I can't do the quote off the top of my head. There's a wonderful Scalia line where he's basically saying like his basic thesis was like stupid but constitutional. There's all kinds of social policy that could be good, it could be bad. If you're talking about like adults making decisions for themselves, at a certain point we kind of just have to let them figure it out because that's what life is. But it is different to me when you're talking about kids because they don't have the necessary frame of reference.
Brain development. Their brains don't develop until they're 25.
Or just experience, right? Like
an experience. Mm-hmm.
Like think about it this way. Like not that long ago, it would have been unusual for somebody to have seen live action pornography before they had a sexual experience.
1,000,000%.
So when they saw pornography, it would be in the context of the sex they'd already had. Today,
Yeah.
most people see a lot of pornography before they have any sex. And
I know.
that is going to impact the way they view sex and relationships in each other, right? So, if you've never had like a pen pal or a good friend, but now you have this AI who's in your pocket and is your best friend, what does that do to the way that you develop socially? I think that
That's huge.
certainly a question worth asking. And one benefit, maybe this is just me being a federalist, but one benefit of letting the states regulate, this is going to sound mean, but like if Florida bans it and California doesn't, in 10 years we'll have data. We'll say like, oh, well, we'll see the states that banned it, this is how it went. The states that didn't ban it, this is how it went, and now we know. Because right now, it's interesting, but I'm just spitballing.
Do you know that Florida is trying to ban AI? Like, what do you know about the different? You want to go into the regulations now? And
sure, I know that
you said you pulled up the federal, which is good. And then how much? Let's talk about the federal, because I would like to know what you think about how much of this is just campaign promises delivered.
Yeah. So in terms of Florida, I know that the primary concern that DeSantis has been talking about was regulating its usage for minors. That was his big thing. Now, are there other parts to this, like water usage, zoning? I'm not in the weeds on that. I do think Trump's executive order is interesting and worth looking at. Okay. Because one thing I've noticed about him is that there's a huge gap typically between what he says and what the executive order says. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of responding to what he said, right? So this got me a while back. He for a while, he was talking about how like anyone who burns a flag should be prosecuted. And like every other lawyer I took to X and was like, you can't do that. That's like a naked violation of the First Amendment. There's clear Supreme Court law, blah, 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 blah. We all said what we were going to say. But then if you read the executive order, it was actually very clear that he was not going to prosecute anybody just for burning a flag. He was directing his prosecutors to prioritize cases in which there was another crime and a flag burning happened to be involved.
So like an enhancement, a flag burning enhancement.
Or like if you were, for example, like disorderly or committed assault while disrupting a protest and you happened to burn an American flag. His executive order said, well, let's prioritize prosecuting that guy, right? Which is different than, his order was actually quite nuanced, whereas what he said was absolutely unconstitutional. So he said a lot about regulating AI, but I'm curious what the executive order actually says. So going through this, purpose, we want leadership in AI to promote national security and dominance across many domains. I mean, I think this is an interesting point, like saying, one way to view AI is, oh my goodness, the danger it poses, right? The other way to view AI is, this is the space race 2.0. And we won the space race against Russia back in the day, and it set off decades of American dominance. Can we really afford to lose this one? So pursuant to Executive Order 5, removing barriers, blah, 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 I revoke my predecessor's attempt to paralyze this industry. Okay,
you just cannot dig.
So I've got to read what Biden did because he's revoking the previous executive order. They've done tremendous work. These efforts have delivered tremendous benefits to people. Blah 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 blah. Okay, this is just that's all nonsense. To win,
must be free to innovate without cumbersome regulations.
Yeah, so this is an anti-regulation order.
See, there he goes. This is what I care about. The excessive state regulation thwarts this imperative.
Yep. State-by-state regulations, by definition, create a patchwork of 50 different regulatory regimes that makes compliance for startups more difficult. That's true. State laws are increasingly responsible for requiring entities to embed ideological. Interesting. Now he's doing the DEI thing. State laws are increasingly responsible for requiring entities to embed ideological bias within models. For example, a new Colorado law banning algorithmic discrimination, may even force AI models to produce false results in order to avoid a different treatment or impact on protected groups. This sounds like he's been talking to Elon, because this is Elon's talking point.
Yeah.
And third, state laws sometimes impermissibly regulate beyond state borders, impinging on interstate commerce, which, that you can see that being a problem. So they want he wants to have a 50-state solution, and he wants to limit state capacity to regulate. And interestingly, my first take on this, he's saying, I don't want the states to regulate, but is the federal government really going to regulate this? Or like Congress doesn't pass any laws. So how is this getting regulated at the federal level?
Well, what he's saying, the states can't regulate unless they dictate that lower jurisdictions cannot regulate. So states are regulating. I'm looking it up now. There's certain states that are saying, I believe West Virginia either passed or is trying to pass. That's one I know of. A statewide regulation that says counties cannot pass local ordinances. Counties cannot do anything to change zoning or to keep AI from developing. So in that sense, states are able to regulate. I guess they're allowed to regulate to the point of preventing any more regulation, but they can't regulate. Does that make sense? Is that the way I'm reading? Am I reading it right?
Well, I think it's going to matter the type of the regulation, right? Because if you think about like a zoning regulation, it would be very hard for the federal government to fight a zoning regulation, right? Like if the federal government, if a state just said, we are not zoning for commercial use this area, you're not going to get to build a data center there. Now, maybe they get sloppy and they say, you cannot build data centers here. And maybe then it gets challenged. But zoning, there's a lot of ways that states and municipalities could be tricky. It's a little bit different with stuff like the ideological bias point. Like, are you allowed to require an AI company to code their AI or to train their AI in a particular way or on a particular database? That sounds like something the federal government that's more in their wheelhouse. But it sounds like you found something.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're doing that, but also I think that a lot of counties are prohibited through the way these states are writing the regulations. Counties are actually prevented from writing more restrictive zoning. So like if there's an industrial zone and a county wants to say, okay, if there's a data center that wants to come in, they need to go through a particular extra environmental review or something like that. And the states are saying they can't do that. Counties, industrial is industrial. You cannot carve out new regulations for data centers to have to do anything, which is in line with the White House's statement or policy that there is cumbersome regulations. So some states are implementing stricter rules on water use and energy demands for data centers. Definitely local municipalities are wrestling with the sitting data centers because now they're starting to see how the power is affected, how the water is affected, how little jobs it's creating. I think they just popped up in places. And now land is being purchased with ideas of creating more. And then, so states like Florida are resisting federal preemption with governors seeking to protect local authority to reject data centers, citing concerns over electricity costs. So this might not be a purely MAGA loyalist issue when it comes to the governors. I'm heartened.
DeSantis is very much leading the charge for states to be allowed to regulate. And this is kind of what I was getting at before. And before I do that, Naritas, I totally agree with you. If the federal government really wanted to be heavy-handed, they could seize land of eminent domain and just build the data centers. Mm-hmm. That's particularly heavy-handed. And what I was getting at, Naritas, with zoning is zoning's tough because it depends a little bit on how crafty the zoners are. Like if somebody passed a zoning regulation that said there shall be no data centers, I think that would get challenged by the federal government for being an anti-AI policy. But if instead they just say, due to the limited, let's say they're in California or Arizona or something like that, due to the limited water available in this area, we are not giving industrial permits to any businesses that would use X amount of water. Or they just, they put caps on the amount of water that can be used at different property, at different locations. And they set the cap at a level that would, mess up AI data centers without being overtly targeting them. Like you can imagine ways they could get kind of creative. On the flip side, the Colorado thing, like where you're actually regulating the AI itself, that seems a little trickier. So like that would be harder to do. But let's see what exactly Trump is asking his government to do.
Okay.
All right. So there's going to be a task force within 30 days, and this was December 11th. So this task force should be early January. Okay. Whose sole responsibility shall be to challenge state AI laws inconsistent with the policy set in Section 2 above, including on grounds that such laws are unconstitutionally regulate interstate commerce, are preempted by existing federal regulations, or are otherwise unlawful in the Attorney General's judgment, including, if appropriate, if those laws identify pursuant to Section 4 of this order. The task force shall consult from time to time with special advisor for AI and crypto.
Oh my God, all the bros.
Okay, so he's going to put together a DOJ task force that's going to go and challenge all these state laws. So when DeSantis passes a law, when West Virginia passes a law, they're going to go to court and they're going to challenge the constitutionality of those laws.
Yep, they're going to try. Okay. So we're going to sue you. We'll see you in court. Go for it. State AI laws that warrant challenge. There you go. And then an evaluation. See here. Oh my God, I hadn't read this. This is like.
Yeah. So they're going to identify laws that require AI models to alter truthful outputs or that may compel AI developers. The evaluation identifies. Yeah. I mean, so. One of the questions I have is I just don't think there's a lot of federal regulation on this topic right now. So they're saying like find state laws that are inconsistent with federal regulation. I don't think there is federal regulation. So to my knowledge, I don't think there's some like sweeping AI regulatory package that's gone through. So I'm not exactly sure what would be inconsistent. But
go on. I was going to say what he's saying is publish an evaluation of existing state AI laws that identifies onerous laws that conflict with the policy set forth in this order. So this order is the federal policy on AI.
It is, but it lacks it lacks some force, right? Like if you say your state policy is violating this executive order, the state's going to say, and?
Right, absolutely.
But, you know what I mean? Like it's not a federal law.
But it's not, but we'll see you in court. So they're going to use the judicial branch to get them.
Yeah, but even doing that,
I don't. It's actually clever, isn't it?
It is clever, but I don't like, if a state passes just for the chat, the supremacy clause of the Constitution dictates that federal law supersedes state law. So if it is constitutional to have a federal law, and if the federal law conflicts with the state law, the federal law wins. That does not apply to an executive order. Like Trump saying something doesn't mean that he has preempted state law. So, in the absence of a law from Congress or a law that delegated this authority to an agency and the agency regulated. So I think he's going to need some regulations. Now, a question is, can he find an agency that would be in charge of this? Like, could he get the EPA to pass a regulation about water use? Or I don't know exactly what the angle would be, but it's unclear.
I see, like that. I think their policy will be if it interferes with the development of the company, it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and
pure capitalism.
It could be that this, for example, This strikes me as a way to tee up legislation. So, like, I don't think you could stop Colorado from doing what they're doing with this, but you could say, we're going to publish all this information about what Colorado's doing in terms of allegedly biasing AI. And then we're going to tee that up for the Senate. And then we're going to have a bunch of hearings. And then we're going to start, the ball rolling on some kind of content regulation.
Yeah, I can see that.
This is the ultimate question, Shubhengra. It's very tricky. Who determines what is truthful in the AI context is really hard. That's a very, very tough question. And AI, at least in my experience with it, is not oriented, like large language models are not oriented around truth. They're oriented in terms of pleasing the user. So they want to say yes, they want to give you something helpful. That does not mean that they're giving you something truthful, though they do seem to be getting better over time. Like I've seen, like AI has been increasingly willing to tell me I cannot find what you're looking for, which is nice. Like that fills me with some confidence, but it's a good question. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's the teeth.
Okay.
Restrictions on state funding. Within 90 days of the date of this order, so this is going to be February, January, March, the Secretary of Commerce, through blah, 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 shall issue a policy notice specifying the conditions under which states may be eligible for remaining funding under the Broadband Access to Deployment Program that was saved. Oh, this was a Biden thing. That was saved through my administration's benefit of the bargain reforms. The policy notice must provide states with onerous AI laws identified here are ineligible for those funds. There we go.
So wait, let me read that again. Let's parse that a little bit more. So within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Commerce, and I noticed somebody in the chat, I am ignoring the chat. I'm sorry, because this is taking all of my brain power to focus, but the comments are fire and I appreciate them. And somebody did mention the Commerce Clause. If we regulate in one state, will it affect commerce or the flow of information to other states? I mean, I think that's a general issue with the internet, period. So, but that's a good question. But within 90 days, the data, so it comes through the Secretary of Commerce, as you mentioned. What branch would it come through? Policy notice may be eligible for, you're getting no money. Must provide that the states with onerous AI laws identified to Section 4 are ineligible. To the maximum extent. So we're going to take your broadband funds.
So here's what's going to happen. They're going to use this to identify states that have onerous or biased or et cetera, bad AI laws. Then they're going to use this as the stick, because as we said, you can't just say that violates an executive order and sue. That's not good enough. And that is going to tee up litigation, because the states that lose this money are going to sue and say that this is not a valid reason to take our money away.
So there's going to be multiple litigations.
There'll be litigations across, I would imagine, blue states like Colorado, who will then file a lawsuit to challenge their loss of this funding. So I think that's probably going to be how this case goes up to the court. It's going to be through Section 5.
Yeah, and in the meantime, they're going to be on the defense for their actual laws. They're going to be fighting a defense case when they get sued by DOJ or this task force, right, through the litigation task force. And then they're going to have to be plaintiffs in the fight to get their state money, which is very, I think it's in character. It's on brand for this president in how he does business as a businessman and as a political figure. He just exhausts you with litigation.
Yeah, and he certainly has no shortage of litigation. I have no shortage of things to talk about on this channel. I will say, I'm not deep enough in the weeds on this to have like 100-0 opinion, but my inclination is that AI is the next space race. And that I think that what he's doing here is he's saying, if if your regulation is inconsistent with federal regulation, we're going to try to get rid of it. And guess what? There's going to be almost no federal regulation. And I think that what he's saying is that this needs to be, we need to make sure that we win this race. That seems to be the focus. Now, as to like DeSantis's concern about like kids using it, I don't know that that's necessarily a fight he needs to fight. So far, he hasn't, nothing in here. I mean, I guess that could be an onerous requirement, but that doesn't seem like the kind of fight they're picking here. I think that like saying minors can't use it doesn't strike me as the type of thing that he's targeting.
I think it'll be the next space race if the water and the electricity can be sustained to power it. And, an AI programmer explained something to me. It's not just about personal use of ChatGPT. I was talking about my dream interpretation and how much I love it. But I also use it for lesson plans. Teachers are using it, blah, blah, blah. But he said it's not even about the personal consumption that's really going to burn through the data centers and the resources, the natural resources. But it just can power so much, corporation systems and things that, are going to affect our everyday life, but it's not about me sitting down and opening my ChatGPT account and typing in a prompt. So there's a lot that's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think the environmental aspect of it, just to be candid, that's just not going to that this administration is not going to slow down for that reason.
And absolutely. Well, but I'm saying, they might not have a choice is what I'm saying. Like it might burn through so much energy that it will really affect, like, what if we have brownouts? What if we have water shortages because of this? What if we're all living, and maybe I'm just being doomsday about it, but what if it really does once it affects your daily consumer life, then people will feel it. I mean, I know in my state, electricity has already gone up quite a bit. Private equity is driving up the cost of a lot of things. And I want, and the privatization of utilities has been happening for a long time. And I've always been really keen on it and really afraid of it. And the one thing that terrified me the most about this administration was the environmental loss that will happen because of this no regulation policy. Everything else, I was like, I could live with, I can process it. I could probably get with some, I could work with it. But you can't buy water and soil back. My first case, real quick, the first case I actually did, my little pro bono one little pro bono case I did maybe 2 days after the election was filing a land use case. I never did land use work. It just came to me the day after he was elected. And that was like the one reason I really didn't want this administration in. So now it's happening with the data centers. I thought it would happen just with general industry, where the regulation would be so deregulated that we would lose our water, our soil, our birds, our bugs, our bees, all of that stuff.
I mean, I think the one question I have is, I know data centers use a lot of water, but they're using it for cooling. Is there any reason they have to be using potable water?
I don't know the answer to that. My understanding, very rudimentary understanding, is that the water is to run the air conditioners and to keep the place cool. Yeah. So I guess that's
I mean, like I think the answer, if we're worried about water, is to figure out how to use water that's not the drinking water supply, right? Because because when you drink the water, like city water has a lot of effort goes into creating city water. But if you could use non-potable water, like if you could use gray water, that would help quite a lot.
I agree.
And then the other issue is just, honestly, we just need, like, I don't think this is going away. I think we need more energy production, right? Oh, and yeah. This is the other one. This is the fun thing, right? The obvious answer is to build them in Canada, actually, because it's really cold. If you build, like, if you think about Canada has a tremendous amount of energy that they don't use because they have a lot of green policies. They have a tremendous amount of unused space because it's very cold and people don't live there. And they have a tremendous amount of just cold weather, right? So yeah, this is, or Greenland, if we were going to go down that road.
I think we want Greenland for other stuff.
Yeah, but putting them in northern climes, particularly energy-rich northern climes, makes some sense. And then there's going to be the questions about just how fast energy technologies are developing. Like the last I saw, like China's solar production has gotten really, really heavy. The batteries are getting better. So, and I don't know about you, but like out by me, gas is really cheap right now. So energy seems like it should be doable. It might not be green, but it should be doable.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're getting a lot of oil apparently from the country down south. So I think we're, definitely going to have more oil if it comes to energy. But in terms of the water issue, even gray water, there can be a shortage of that. I mean, in a place like California, there's very little water. I mean, a lot of it gets diverted to agriculture, but water is just water. There might not even be enough non-potable water to cool and do what needs to be done, especially like there's a data center in Tennessee. They're trying to open them in Virginia, I believe. My hometown of, in South Jersey, the water it's actually a good place in terms of water because the water it's just 8 feet below the water table is very close to the ground, the top of the ground where you walk. And it's very sandy soil, which is a whole other issue. That's been an issue in that area for a long time. But Jersey's always been sort of a dumping ground for, chemicals and different types of factories and industry. And so they've, dealt with issues of their water before. Somebody also said something about nuclear power. And I would just say that the water issue it is a reason why nuclear development stopped, is that it just takes so much water to cool it. So it's a problem.
Well, nuclear development stopped.
But what about the power? Do you think that
weirdly, nuclear development stopped mainly because it was killed by the Green Movement? Like one of the great ironies of life is that the political faction that was most opposed to nuclear power was in large part the far left, which is like it was a hilarious issue. But like, yeah, I mean, I think if you need more power, nuclear is a way to go. If you need more water, this is interesting. Like one of the things that you learn in law school, which is like an odd fact, is that in the US, we have this thing that's more for chat than for you, called riparian law. And riparian law is water law. Who gets the water and why? And almost all riparian law comes out of Western states because there's a shortage of water in the West. But in Eastern states, there's almost no riparian law because we have a fuck ton of water. And I think this is kind of what chat was going at with kind of like, do you build in the North? Do you build in the Northeast? Now, the Northeast is more expensive, so that could be challenging. But I think that one thing that's interesting about this is it might create economically valuable usage for land that otherwise is not particularly valuable. Like if you think about like northern New York State, like up at the border of Canada, there's just nothing there, right? Like it's beautiful, but there's nothing there. Like if you could probably fit some good data centers in places like that, kind of out of the way, tons of water, it's cold, it's easier to cool things. So I'll be interesting to see if this creates economic activity in areas that wouldn't otherwise have it.
Well, here's the thing though, what kind of economic activity? They only create a few jobs. The building of the centers will create some economic activity short term. But in terms of like people, that was, like I said in the beginning of the stream, one of the sort of places where, environmental folks and anti-development folks and development folks could come together was, we're creating good jobs for your community. And anti-development folks often are about creating living wages and, good economies for working people. And data centers ain't that. It doesn't create a good economy. It just puts something out in the middle of nowhere that creates a great, if you're into AI, it creates a product, but it's like having what do you call those places in like Miramar or in the middle of the islands where they have the like storage for internet? Like the dark web lives on these places where there's just all these servers, right? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
So it's like that to me, that's the way and I could be wrong, but that's what I envision a data center to be.
Well, but I think there's more than one way of looking at that, right? Like, let's assume you're right, and the data center doesn't create a lot of jobs per dollar invested compared to like other investments. Let's just assume that's true. Then that I don't know that that's necessarily a problem though, because like AI, as we've talked about, is going to have all these other spillover effects. Like it makes acquiring legal services cheaper. And one way that like you increase the quality of living is to pay people more. But another way is to make goods and services cheaper. Like one of the weird things about like today is that, for all that many people complain about it, like if you were not a king, you couldn't order, ethnic food delivered to you couldn't have a burrito delivered to your house. That was, I'm not sure the King of France could have had a burrito delivered to his house in like the 1600s, right? So like we have, and there's a website called Human Progress, which is kind of fun. And they track something called, I forgot the term, but the metric they use is basically like the hours you would have to work to acquire something instead of dollars, right? So like they norm the average wage and then the price, and then they say like, what did a worker have to do to acquire this, right? And like acquiring a refrigerator in the 1970s took like 400 hours of work.
Interesting.
And today it takes like 20, 30. Is
that a good thing? Is that a good thing?
It means that you work less and get more, so your quality of life is
more
higher.
Comfort. Yeah, your quality of life, define quality of life is better. But now I have to replace my refrigerator every 10 years.
Right,
I think planned obsolescence, again, as an environmental person, planned obsolescence is like horrible. It's not sustainable, but I mean, is life sustainable? I guess.
But I mean, like if you don't care about getting more things for cheaper, why do you care what people's wages are? Because that's the whole point, right? Is that they can like buy things they need. So like that, like one way to do that is to pay them more. Another way to do that is to make the things they want cheaper.
Yeah, but the wages haven't increased with the cost of, the wages have not increased with the cost of what we need. Like, and the things that are cheaper have created this consumer culture, fast fashion, a planned obsolescence, right? Things are cheaper, but I have to buy more of them. My parents had, I'm sure we all have this story. My parents had the same washer and dryer for so many years. And, I have to replace mine. My God, mine blew, because it got like, okay, my dryer had a electrical shock come through it, and I had to call the repairman, and they were like, oh, they don't even make the thing for the electrical whatever panel for this anymore. They change them every 10 years. So if my dryer hadn't busted in 10 years, like because my dryer was older than that, I had to just buy a whole new thing. And I'm just not convinced that that's
but I think about this though. Like, I don't get paid this, so I'm gonna give some numbers, but I don't get paid this. This is when I bill. So what I bill is not what I get paid. The firm gets paid, not me, right?
Okay.
But
noted.
I bill at north of 1,000 an hour plus.
Oh, okay.
So if AI, if using Westlaw's AI means that my initial research phase where I'm just learning the law in a new area, I'm not even writing the brief. I'm just learning the law in a new area, right? That time shrinks from 10 hours to 1.
Yeah.
Right. And now you have to pay for the AI, but that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Well, my client just saved $10,000 of my time. So like, I do think that like, yeah, I mean, we can talk about consumerism and blah, 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 but like, you know, there is a value there that AI is providing, right? Like it is making legal services cheaper, which is good for people who want to buy legal services. It might be weird for law firms. Like, you know, maybe they don't hire as many lawyers. So like, that's going to be the challenge is like, what do we do? What's the creative destruction? Like normally when there's a new technology, like you had the cotton gin, you know, like you had the printing press, you had these technologies reduce the amount of human labor required, therefore reduce jobs, but then they tend to create new things. There tends to be some down the road new sector that is created, not necessarily for the same people, but it is like there is creative destruction in the long run.
Creative destruction. I like that. And I think with AI and with the tech boom, it's happening so fast. I'm not sure that what is needed to sustain human quality of life is going to keep is fast enough to keep up with AI. And I have an idea I thought of the other day when I was mentally preparing for this stream. Because when I heard that this data center in my hometown was only going to provide 7 to 20 long-term jobs, I forget the exact number, I thought, and over time it will put some people out of, it'll put people out of jobs, or it will decrease the type of jobs that, people used to do. Okay. What if we created a universal basic income that was subsidized by the billionaires who are benefiting from the AI bubble?
So I flirted with UBI when Andrew Yang was running, and he had an interesting spot on Joe Rogan. I flirted with it. Here's where I got off the bus. It was COVID, right? Because during COVID, we kind of rolled out a soft UBI. We gave everybody a lot of money. And what we
like $1,200 or $1,800?
$1,200 times everybody in the country.
Yeah, but so it's a lot of money collectively, but it's not a lot of money. That's not universal basic. A $1,200 stipend is not universal basic income.
It was a small fraction of what UBI would be.
Yeah, but I mean, if it was a sustained monthly, now it's a very different effect.
But
a one-time $1,200.
My point is that tiny fraction of what UBI would be was disastrous. Like it spiked inflation. Because it's not just money that's going, like one of the things I talk about all the time is that inflation in our country right now is not uniform at all. Like I bought a ring light for my computer, which I don't have on right now because I'm lazy, but it was really cheap. It was like, it was cheaper than when I ordered delivery for like dinner. It was cheaper than that. Sure. But food, inflation is through the roof on food.
Absolutely.
Why is that? In part, it's because during COVID, we didn't just give out money. We gave money to consumers who were going to buy things like food. And they flooded the market with money. And then the prices went up, right? Like my concern with the UBI, and by the way, our deficit exploded in the process, but let's set that aside. So my concern with UBI is
another conversation.
If you give everybody $30,000 a year, let's say, right? Isn't that just going to put us into an inflation spiral where everything is going to get more and more expensive because everybody has access to this extra $30,000 a year? So then we're going to have to keep ratcheting the number up to combat the inflation that we're causing.
But why will it create inflation?
Well, you have more money chasing the same goods and services.
But will it be more money? I mean, it's what, $1,500 a month or something? Is that really? So you're saying if everybody spends it on food, then that'll just create inflation?
I mean, it did during COVID. So I don't know why it wouldn't if we did it at a much larger scale.
Well, during COVID, wasn't there more like the reason why prices went up was because of the supply and demand and the rush to get certain things at certain times and the unknowing of the supply chains and things not being ports being closed and deliveries being slowed down. I mean, wasn't that why things were more expensive during COVID?
That's a huge part of it.
Okay.
There's many factors, but what I'm saying is I think like on an economics level, really simple, which is
Mhm.
like if you increase the amount of money that is being spent on goods and services because you're giving people lots of money to spend on those,
Yeah.
then the supply of like there's all this money out there. There's tons of cash available, right? But the supply of the goods and services isn't necessarily changing. So
Yeah.
you have more money chasing the same number of goods and services, so the prices go up, right? Because that's just like
Yeah.
it's the same reason why in our education debate why university is so expensive, because we gave everybody student loans. So now like what does university cost? Well, it's like
Yeah.
well
Okay.
we can charge them 60 grand a year because we know they can afford it, right? Because they have the loans. So like I think that's the problem, is that like I don't know how to do. I'm not opposed to UBI. Like it was like if we ended up in a future where you really couldn't have everybody working, and it was a hyper productive tech overlords with their AI robots who were running things, I could see the need for UBI in a scenario like that. But I don't know. It seems like it's going to make things worse. Like it really does seem like it would. Like COVID really shattered the glass on this for me. Like I did not think that our
That
hyper
one
spending
little
during
payment,
one little payment. I mean, I
but
wasn't.
macro. I guess you're looking at it macro. I'm looking at it micro, right? So I could see where
Like,
you're coming
well,
from now.
one little payment. We also gave out like all those PPP
The
loans.
PPP loans. That's a whole nother.
I mean, we spent like COVID era
PPP loans
spending
were
was
crazy.
outrageous. I mean, I think we
PPP
spent
loans were
trillions
ridiculous.
and trillions of dollars on COVID relief,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the result, I don't know. It didn't seem good to me. It seemed like it didn't seem like it worked out the way that a
It was meant
UBI
to.
enthusiast would be pleased with.
Yeah. My fear of UBI, I have two stances on it, or two ideas about it. One, the kind of anarchist in me, right? The like self-rule, self, free will, create, like live your life person says UBI would be great because it would free up people to pursue their leisure and their creative endeavors and exercise or be healthy or be outside or raise their children or do things with their families or write books or create songs. I don't know. So there's that aspect of it that I think that would be nice because it would free us from having to work, right? But then on the other hand, I know people, and if we have more screens and more AI and just video games and all that, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people would just take the UBI and go to the dispensary and choose some gummies and play video games all day, or just stay home and sleep or get depressed. And, it won't be enough to, be a consumer, right? And some people might just spend it on consumer goods rather than daily goods. And then they're just burning through it and then sitting home and being unproductive. I remember I had a student
amongst the many ways in which Karl Marx was wrong about everything is that he predicted that once capitalism created hyperabundance, people would be, what was the thing? He thought everybody was going to be engaging in literary criticism with all their free time, right?
Who was that?
Karl Marx. That was his, when the communist utopia came, everyone would be engaging in literary criticism because they wouldn't have to work.
Thinking and talking about our thoughts.
Yeah, it turns out that they're not engaging in literary criticism or writing poetry or painting pictures and songs. Like, as you mentioned, what they're doing is playing Arc Raiders and masturbating and ordering takeout burritos. That's what they're doing.
Like buying puppies.
Yeah,
I remember I had a a student who's with their COVID money, like just bought a puppy. And I was just like, oh my God, a COVID puppy. So of
Yeah.
course had to give COVID puppy away. I want to just comment morally neutral. Yes, UBI is the least anarchist idea. I get it. What I mean is that it's because it is money from the government, but it would allow you to be a little freer and pursue your what you want,
Yeah.
your self-rule a little bit. But yes, you would still have it would still be government money. So, yeah, I know, Naritas. I just wonder, I guess what also concerns me about AI and the inequitable wealth distribution that's happening. I mean, I guess people who are vested in the market are okay. Those of us with little pensions and little investments and, things like that. Okay. It's looking good. And then of course there's the tech oligarchs or the billionaires who were at the inauguration. And I guess that will just keep growing. Like today's billionaire is yesterday's millionaire. I don't know that that's sustainable. What do you think about AI fueling that? Is that something that should be looked at, or is that the free market?
This is, I think, a really interesting question. I don't know if you've read it, but there's a wonderful Kurt Vonnegut novel called "God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater."
No.
And I think about it a lot when I talk about AI, futurism, and doomerism. The basic premise is that this guy inherits a lot of money, and amongst the things he inherits is a town. And the town is full of people who are basically utterly dependent on this hyper wealthy family and are just completely useless. Like they don't produce anything. They don't do anything useful.
Like the DuPonts.
Yeah. But like the people in this town have no productive purpose, right? And that's kind of the central question the novel asks is, what do you do with a bunch of useless people? Right? Like what do you do about that?
Chad, please chime in.
And that's the question in some ways that like an AI doomer is posing, right? Where they say like, if AI makes a small number of people hyper productive, like let's talk law, because we know law. Like I could with a really good set of AI tools, maybe I could start a firm where it's just me, one other lawyer, and one junior, but we're doing the work that would have taken 10 lawyers to do previously because we have all this AI efficiency. Well, that means that there's less lawyers employed. So what happens to those lawyers who didn't make the cut? What happens to the other 8 who should have been there but aren't? Are they employed somewhere else? And if so, where, right? And I think that the AI doomers say AI is going to replace all this work and we're never going to get it back. And I think the AI boomers say it's going to be like the printing press. It's going to destroy a bunch of jobs and it's going to create a new society. And you can't predict it, but historically, the next you can't predict the next thing, but the next thing always arrives.
Yeah. So what I mean, it's just, and especially, right, kids who grow up on it would really be, I mean, somewhat I don't love the word useless people, but I guess for the purposes of this conversation, kids who grow up on screens, on AI with lack of social skills, who, I mean, man, I'm sure that's right. We have the teaching in common. So kids are social promotion. Parents aren't making kids go to school. I mean, I know teachers who have students who are not coming to school. And at the end of the quarter, the parent calls in, the principal comes in, and I'm not going to say what county, because I actually think this is like borderline illegal, but people will the admin will come into the teacher's room and say, okay, you need to take whatever work this kid turns in and pass them. It's like AP literature. It's an AP class. Mm-hmm. And when you have a kid that's like that sits home, so I'm assuming this kid is on screens all day, okay, or some kind of school anxiety, but they're home all day. They're not working. These are not kids who need to go off and work. And I know that student too. So these kids are just working, or they're home on screens. Then they graduate from high school, having gone to like a couple classes senior year and doing a couple essays, doing some math problems. They squeak by, they go to graduation. Now universal basic income for them, because they're not going to pursue any kind of job. They're happy to stay home and get their $1,500 a month. And that's forever. Is that what we're creating? And then will they be able to leave their parents' house? Are they stuck? And now even the adult child tenant is an issue, right? I love these cases of parents evicting their 38-year-old child because they won't leave. So it's like, are we creating that? Is that like what is the book called?
God bless you, Mr. Rosewater.
God bless you, Mr. Rosewater.
It's a fabulous
book. Put it on
book.
my list. All right. Will it bum me out?
It's a Kurt Vonnegut novel, so yeah, probably.
Okay.
But it's a wonderful book.
List.
But I think that's the thing. Like the thing about, and this is why I put Shapingro's comment up about like literacy and change, is that when you're talking about creative destruction, you never really can predict the next thing, right? Like if you imagine the society sitting around when the printing press was invented, right? You'd be like, well, holy God, there's a whole industry. Like, what do people who are really learned do for a living? They scribe, they copy down books. This is like, and overnight, we're going to destroy this entire industry. They're all out of work in the next 10 years. It's done. If you're a scribe, you're screwed, right? But then it turns out
scribes were like, no, not the printing press. I know that's actually
of course. But then it turns out that having access to books opened up all like the idea that there's like this booming legal profession. It's like, well, really? That only works because we have easy access to information, right? And like that was the printing press. Like, so like there's always supposed to be this apocalypse, and typically what's happened is that it creates the next thing. Now, if I'm going to steelman the other side, I think like a buddy of mine is very doomer on this, and he'll say things like, "Well, the problem with AI is that AI by its nature doesn't replace. Like if you let self-driving cars take over the trucking industry, how does that create jobs? Like what's the creation? It destroys a bunch of jobs, but what is it? What jobs are created by having the truckers do that?" And the answer, which is very unsatisfying, that I have to give is I just don't know. Like I don't know what the next thing is going to be. I can't predict it. If I could predict it, I would be building that business right now, and I'd be a billionaire in a week or two. But like I can't, unfortunately.
I mean, let me ask you a question, and I guess chat too. Do you think that the transition from the printing press to the scribes finding new work or a way to make a living, do you think it was fast, slow? Is it going to be the same? Like, is technology? I'm sure this is like I think I saw like a Luddite question, but is it just going too fast for humanity to keep up? And are we just stuck with? I mean, I guess we all have different ideas of what the world should look like. I mean, I'd like to keep the trees and the bees and the birds, and but then people need houses, and people. I'll tell you, they replaced the water main in my street this year, and I'm thrilled at the idea of having like great, water service, and that's destruction. So, okay, so here we go.
This is what Cacophons is on the same wavelength as my buddy who's always
people just die off. The scribes are yeah, that's what I think. That's what I'm scared of, is that the printing press was like a positive for humanity, right? And AI, I mean, aside from like great selfie enhancement and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's doing more. Again, there's benefits. There are benefits. I have to not be so doomer. I guess I'm like a doomer AI. That's a new term.
That's the thing, right? Like who knows? Like I can't predict. Like maybe like AI is the thing that lets us start like colonizing Mars because we can just do the math, right? Like we can do the tech. Like I don't know.
But I don't want to colonize Mars.
All
I don't
right,
want
well
to
then,
colonize Mars.
bummer for you, but I think that
Do you want to colonize Mars? Do you want to practice
Yeah.
law on Mars? Do you want to
Oh,
practice
do I
Martian
want
law?
to personally colonize Mars, or do I want humanity to colonize Mars? Those are different questions.
Both.
I have no particular interest
Both.
in going to Mars, but like the us as a species doing so would obviously be a good thing. Like like I think like
Why?
well,
Why obviously a good thing?
weren't you just
Why not
saying
leave
that
it be?
you were concerned about like running out of space and resources and like not enough birds and fish and like it sounds like you had like kind of like environmental limited resources type concerns, and one solution to those concerns is expansion. Not now you
Just
have a whole nother planet, now you have a whole other set of resources.
No, because you have to take a rocket to get there, and that uses so much resources, and they're so polluting. And I mean, I think SpaceX is a whole nother conversation for me. It's a level of hate for
Well,
me.
can we at least
The
stipulate
way
that?
what is happening to the unregulation? Want to talk about deregulation of an industry? Oh my God, the Rocket Man. So
Well,
gross.
first of all, I'm just going to tell a story because it's one of my favorite stories and it makes me laugh so hard every time I tell it. But
Okay.
I think we can at least stipulate that in a world where we have the technology to colonize Mars, we have figured out global climate change. Like I feel like colonizing Mars is harder than solving. Like I feel like we in order to have gotten to Mars, we've probably figured out 100 other things that seem like big deals right now. Like fusion would have to be like figured out. Like I think we would have had to figure out so much. Like imagine like colonizing Mars, you would need technology that turns a barren planet into a livable planet. Like if you can do that, you can't solve climate change back home. That seems odd to me. I feel like if we had that kind of tech, we could solve a whole bunch of stuff.
But if we don't believe in climate change and have the political will to deal with climate change, which we don't, it's not going to happen. So I believe that we'll colonize Mars before we even deal with climate change, if it's even people even believe in it. Hold on, I'm going to hop off for just 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I don't take that position. I feel like the if we're dropping some Star Trek type technology, I think we've probably figured out some of these current problems, and they feel a little easier than they feel right now. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a SpaceX fan. I think it's great that we're doing it. I think it's great that we're pushing the envelope, but because if it's not us, then who is it? Right? Like it's not like China's going to stop doing this. It's not like Russia's not going to be interested in doing this sort of thing. So I think, we have to either be in the driver's seat or we're, falling behind. I think that's kind of what it is. That's a terrible view. Jesus. All right, there we go. So let's see what else is in here. Within 90 days, they're going to publish a proceeding to determine whether to adopt a federal reporting disclosure standard for AI models. Okay, so they might mobilize shame against states that are doing things they don't like. Preemption of state laws. Within 90 days of this order, the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission shall, in consultation with the advisors, blah, 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 unfair or deceptive act. Ooh, this is actually kind of juicy. Okay. 15 USC 45. I'm unfamiliar with this law. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so this is unfair and deceptive trade practices.
Oh, what is this about?
Oh, I was just finishing the executive order. So they're gonna publish. They're gonna mobilize shame. So they're gonna create a list of states that are being naughty and are publishing laws they don't like, and they're gonna publish it. and they're going to look into whether any states are publishing unfair or deceptive trade practices, which then therefore need to be looked into. Naritas, thanks for the 5, buddy. Really appreciate it and appreciate you. Yeah, it's fun to be doing this again. I took some time off for the holidays, but it's nice to see you all again. Appreciate that very much, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, you have a great community here. I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm not hosting any streams on my channel for the foreseeable future, so I'm just going where I'm invited. So this is great.
Happy to have you. And yeah, they are fantastic. Mm-hmm. We are, we are Legion. Soon we take over. Oh, here we go. Legislation.
Wait, go back to this. This is very interesting. Oh, and by the way, I think our other guest is going to hop up. And I put something in the back, so probably in about 10 more minutes. So we'll have some new insight. But how interesting that they're going to hit it with litigation, commerce, and the and the Federal Trade Commission. They are really, I mean, the billions of dollars, these campaign donations got this industry quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this gives does this give a private right of action? I don't think it does.
No. Wait. So what is this? Is this going to go against AI companies? So what was this about?
They said that they're looking at unfair, deceptive acts, and then the Federal Trade Commission can enforce this law. I don't think this has a private right of action, which means if it had a private right of action, then if they said the following things are deceptive, then litigators could sue for violating 15 USC 45 as glossed by the FTC, which would have been an interesting practice area that I could have looked into, but I don't think it does. I'll double check that after the stream, whether or not.
But also that goes to that actually protects them from this will save you any advice. The medical advice is correct. Am I reading that right? This also protects the companies from liability.
I don't think so. Where do you see that?
That policy statement must explain the circumstances under which state laws that require alterations to the truthful outputs of AI are preempted by Federal Trade Commission's Act's prohibition on engaging in deceptive acts.
I think what they're really getting at there is like if your state law requires that AI do something other than
alterations to the truthful outputs, and then it goes to what's truthful. And I'll tell you, all AI does is scours the internet for trends and information. And if you have, so what's truthful is what people are creating at any given time. So if you have a bunch of people, this is the way I think about it. If you have search trends that are to the right, thank you, Desert Druid. I love that. I'll take it. And my rocket ship will have all the animals. I'll be like Noah's Ark of the rocket ships. That makes me feel a little better. But with that being said, they wouldn't. I don't know that they would survive in the atmosphere. But anyway, So truth law. But so whatever AI is harvesting and spitting out, I think is just a compilation of what's out there on the internet. It's just a very sophisticated search engine, and then it spits it back out to you in a different way. I mean. I know a programmer, an AI programmer at Google, and I don't know if anybody is following Google's AI, which is called Genesis.
So sorry. Only one revolution matters.
I love
donating $17.76.
That's cute.
Well played, sir. Well played. That's that took me a second. That's a good one. Well done.
That is
well done. Desert, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's very generous of you. Thank you, buddy.
Yes.
Very clever. That was very clever. But then I just noticed, by the way, we were talking about this. We hadn't read Section 8 yet. Maybe this makes DeSantis happy. So the special advisor are going to create a recommendation for legislation that they're going to pass on to to Congress. But the recommendation shall not propose preempting otherwise lawful state laws regarding child safety protections. That's DeSantis's issue. Data center infrastructure, other than generally applicable permitting reforms. So they're not going to screw with eminent domain or zoning at this time.
Yeah, but it can be zoned. Anything industrial can be used for an AI data center.
Yeah, but if
commercial,
but they're saying the federal law is not going to touch state rules about infrastructure.
Okay.
So, like, to the extent that the state, like, they're targeting how does the AI work? What does it look at? How is it trained? They're not looking at, because we spend a lot of time talking about water, power, infrastructure. They're not talking about infrastructure. That's not within the things that they're going to recommend federal law, at least for legislation. They're not recommending that federal law touch that, and then maybe other topics.
Yeah, but states will still control it, and it won't, like. And I would believe counties are going to be really, really restricted from passing.
But this is what I was saying before about Trump's executive orders, where he says this stuff that's really broad, and then you read the executive order, and it's not really that, like, you know, like, we were at the very beginning, we started this conversation having not looked at this, and we said, like, okay, there's worries about how you train them. There's worries about infrastructure, water, electricity, child safety. We named a bunch of stuff. And some of that stuff is more statey, child safety, infrastructure, water, and some of it's more federal. Are we going to get an AI that can compete with China, right? And he's leaving these things to the states. But then in terms of, like, AI policy, putting a thumb on the scale in terms of having a functional AI. I mean, this seems like a pretty moderate, sensible approach to the issue, to be honest.
I think it does, but I think where it gets scary is that exactly what we're dealing with, which is red states or local governments who are run by people who are self-serving, like local city councils, like my hometown, will be easily influenced. And you'll have almost what has happened in tribal politics, with people who, you know, have a lot of power on, like, for example, in tribal councils. They often do things that don't benefit the good of the community or the tribe or the reservation. They're very self-serving, and that there's so much corruption. And I don't know that the AI situation or the building of these data centers, et cetera, will be as, like, corrupt as that. But, like, again, in my hometown, you've got 7-person city council, and they're passing laws that favor these huge corporations that have nothing to do with our community, but they're, you know, how are they benefiting? I don't know. I don't know what, if they're getting, probably not kickbacks, but my understanding is that these people are, you know, doing this to curry favor with, you know, the businesses that are coming in, but not necessarily serving the voters that care. And in South Jersey, it's cute. They're calling them taxpayer rallies, which I love. You know, it's very, I guess, 1776 of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, these things, you know, it's kind of an old story. Like, I have family that lives in upstate New York, where there's a lot of very quaint towns with very, very tight zoning rules. And when the big box pharmacies came in, there was a big fight. Like, are we going to let them come in? Yeah. Are we not going to let them come in? If you let them come in, inevitably they're going to put the mom and pop pharmacies out of business eventually. So there's going to be a lot of destruction in the community. But there's also upsides, right? Like, you know, in terms of, like, I don't know if you've ever been to a mom and pop pharmacy, but they don't have anything, and what they do have is very expensive. So it can be a little frustrating if you're trying to actually get something. So, you know, these things are all, it's kind of a tale as old as time, right? Like, you know, the town is looking, they're saying, like, hey, if we let them build this data center, it's going to do X, Y, and Z for the town that we think is a good thing. It's going to generate maybe not as many jobs as you would like, but some jobs. It's going to have this huge construction budget. It's going to be, a lot of people are going to be employed there. There's going to be a big trade boom to get all this stuff done. I don't know how they monetize utilities, blah, blah, blah. If there's some deal they're making with the company in terms of licensing, or even if they're just saying, you know, now we kind of got them, right? Like, if they're leasing the land instead of letting them buy the land. Now it's like, now we got revenue.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how small towns do it. They don't let them buy the land. They say, you can build your data center, but you have to pay us rent every year, and the rent keeps going up. I mean, like, I don't know what's in it for them.
But I think it'll be more more tax breaks, and everybody wants it there. But the construction isn't even all the trades. You're not building bathrooms for workers. You're not building ADA, certified things. You're building a quick structure that actually, I understand, even some maybe Amazon warehouses are being converted to data centers. I don't know, but it's not the kind of construction that creates, long lasting, solid jobs with trades. But yeah, data centers are the new Walmart. I was going to say, I have fought a few Walmarts in my past decades of work. And the first community campaign, whatever I ever got involved with, was fighting a Home Depot in South San Francisco in the Bay Area. I just got into California, and I was living, this was 2020. God, this was probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. That I was involved in this. Home Depot doesn't fit. I remember getting in a van with these very weird people, and they were so pumped up to go fight Home Depot. And I went with them. I'd never really done a campaign like this before. I was just got in the neighborhood, whatever, but I was about it. And they were so jazzed. And I just remember this guy getting in a van. People want to laugh at, this is a fun lefty story. Mm-hmm. And it was I feel like they stopped at the soup kitchen and picked up a bunch of people to come to the protest against Home Depot. And this one guy got in the van.
Are you saying that at lefty protests, not everyone is there organically?
Well, no,
they were stopping at soup kitchens and picking up people to come. That is so surprising. You've blown my mind.
That's what I felt like. I don't know that it was a soup kitchen. It might have been the neighborhood center. They picked him up from but it was a community center, and they picked him up, get in the van. And this guy got in the van, and I just remember him. I should have listened to my gut, or maybe not. I have no regrets, but he was like, guys, he goes, we're going to win. And he was a very, Bay Area guy, with booty shorts and socks pulled up and funny hair. He was very eccentric. And he just said, we're going to win. I feel it. I feel good about this. We're going to, and I was just we're not going to win. If this guy is our leader, I was this guy's going to beat Home Depot. I was oh, I'm just going to pay attention. We didn't beat Home Depot.
Also, Home Depot is awesome. Why? Home Depot is great. Who hates Home Depot? Come on.
Yeah, I was there definitely a couple times past week. I'm painting my basement right now.
But that's the thing. Once you start going. But here's my question. You said that your town is considering loaning money to help a data center build.
Yeah, I can find the deets.
Let's see. But why? What are they saying? What's the upside for the town from their perspective?
Let me see, because I don't know. No, they've tabled it. They've tabled it because so many people went and complained, I guess, to just have the industry. And here's the crazy thing. They already have a data center. They're building a second one.
So it couldn't be that bad if they liked the first one so much. Well, they wanted
here's the thing, too. In my hometown, I did the math. 1 out of 3 registered voters actually voted. So I'm going to guess there's a bunch of people who are not registered to vote who are probably eligible. Then out of the actual registered voters, 31% actually voted in the 2022 election. That's the most recent data I could find.
Well,
so people aren't voting.
That's kind of just the way it goes, though. People,
okay,
local elections get really low turnouts. That's kind of how it is.
On the consent agenda for council was a resolution to provide $6,198,786 in the form of a revolving loan to fund the company Data One USA, a partner of the Nebius Group, who are constructing a 2.4 million square foot data center that would use approximately 300 megawatts of electricity and according to a water department estimate, could use over 1.1 billion gallons of water per year. So people were allowed to discuss the content, and people were exclusively, 16 out of 17 were opposed to the data center. And I'm not seeing what the, look, it's my best friend's daughter's husband is actually in the newspaper article. How cool is that? I know, I'm from a very small town. It's very nice to see him there. And so there's all these organizers. Yeah, it's all the, and my friend from high school who's now a county commissioner, good for her speaking up. She's a Republican. Here's a Republican, your GOP. She's like she's against it. That's good. Good for Tori. So all these people are against it because she's also from a farm family. But I'm not seeing the city benefit. Hold on. The city has this article has nothing from the city of saying why.
Because the piece that's missing for me, and to Nari's point, which I think is a good one, is that cities often contribute to things like stadiums, right? Or Walmarts, because a stadium is a good example. The stadium costs a lot, but then you have a team and people go to the area and it revitalizes and they put in all the restaurants and it has all this spillover effect that creates more and more and more economic activity that's really good for the city. And that's why they're willing to bid on it. Like, which city will give the best tax breaks, which city will loan $6 million, that sort of thing. But if data centers are as bad as you paint them to be in terms of job creation and whatnot, they wouldn't have necessarily the same spillover effects. So I wonder what spillover effects the town is looking at.
There's nothing about it.
That would be interesting.
That's the thing. There's actually nothing about it in these articles. Like the city's just not giving any comment. It's just people who are against it, and the city's like, thank you very much for coming. Like, I don't even see any quote from the city council, the overall stress of water usage. I mean, people are just upset about it. The impact analysis is not complete. Yeah, I mean, the city council really didn't, they just didn't vote. It's a revolving loan fund. So I think it's that they just want the development and they want it to be in Vineland. They would brag about it. And I think that people are coming forward and saying this isn't really going to benefit us.
Well, okay. I think there's a few things that might be interesting to think about, right? The first is we talk about the construction phase. Then you're going to have direct jobs, people who work there. Let's say that number is small.
What if it's 20?
Sure, it's 20. 20 would actually be, for a $6 million investment, that's actually really good. That'd be great.
Okay, so this is what they're saying: economic development, job creation, and technological infrastructure improvements for the region. But it's not. Oh, they're saying, it's expected to create hundreds of temporary construction jobs and long-term positions in IT maintenance and logistics.
That's what I was getting at. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily just the jobs that are permanent, but you're going to have the IT guys who come in. You're going to have the HVAC guys who are doing servicing. You're going to it creates a whole industry. And
the loan is a 6% interest loan. So it's lower than my student loans.
They're going to make money on the loan.
I guess.
And then the last piece is, and this is an interesting one, is how we're going to tax AI, right? Because the idea I had was don't give them the land and make them pay rent, right? You could also jack up their property taxes is another way of doing it. Though another way is that you start actually taxing the economic activity that they create. So, if the state has a good tax system, for example, I do not know the answer to this, so I'm just going to throw this out there and not answer the question. But in New Jersey, if I make money off of my investments, or if I make money off of this stream, I pay New Jersey tax. Sure. But because I work in my firm's in the city, my salary, I pay New York tax, and that gets exempted from New Jersey. right?
Oh, it's exactly. I was going to say, don't you
Yeah.
also pay Jersey tax?
Yeah, I know they have a deal. But if an AI company makes money off of what of their applications, does do they generate income where the like, could you tax the processing, where you're saying like you know, yes, your company's headquartered in California and yes, you're incorporated in Delaware, but all your data centers are in New Jersey, and when you did the processing, we get a piece of that. That would be interesting also if they could figure that out.
But how would that compete? People wouldn't, the company just wouldn't go to a community that's going to tax them out the wazoo. They're
Yeah,
going to go to the lowest bidder. So that's where we, the people, I think, do not benefit.
Well, but it's they're going to go to the lowest bidder, but the lowest bidder still has to be getting something out of it, right? So it's like, like I don't think anyone's going to be like, come build data centers for free, come pay, like we don't even care, like obviously people are doing it because they get something out of it. So
Yeah.
that's going to be the balancing act. It's like, what are you getting out of it? I don't know the answer. Like, I don't know if they're taxing them or how, but that would be interesting. Like if you could tax the processing, that would be a big driver of state revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Is your friend coming?
I don't know. I mean, he's
Okay.
not. I could hop off anytime because we have other things. We could. So he wants to talk more about legal AI and family law and stuff like that. So I'm down to hop off anytime. I am not a 3 to 4 hour streamer YouTube.
Oh, no.
person.
Well,
But
it's been an interesting conversation. You gave me a lot to think about. It's interesting to see how chat is split. I think that we have a little bit more of a few more boomers and less doomers, but it is a split issue, and I think that's actually quite fair because it's a transformative technology, and we don't know what it's going to do. And I'll give you like a little hint, a little secret that like I use the phrase creative destruction a lot because it's a good economic term. I think it's true. Historically, it's worked out. But the dirty secret of creative destruction is the learn to code meme. Because when you destroy one set of jobs and create another set of jobs, they are almost never for the same people. The people whose jobs got destroyed, the jobs just got destroyed. And the jobs that get created, those are new, right? So I think that's there's going to be some real serious friction at minimum.
yeah, I think there will be friction. I think it'll go really fast. And some people would say, and I think I saw this earlier in your chat. Are a bunch of people just going to die? Is it just should we think Darwinian about it? And I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, because it's so artificial. And I'm going to ask you one final question. How much of this do you think is the effect of campaign donations to our current administration? And if we, is that the reason why this is driving, with the caveat that, it's good for people, it's really fun, we love it. Is this market just a result of some really significant campaign contributions? And does that scare you? Or do you think that's the Darwinian?
Well,
manifest destiny?
I think there is a tech race. And if we lose the tech race, there will be consequences. And that's not campaign donation specific. That's kind of just like the state of affairs. Mm-hmm. I would say that campaign donations is why most things happen under most administrations most of the time. So I would be unsurprised if campaign donations had something to do with this. I mean, like, I have spent so hold on, sorry. There's some stories you just can't tell. Is the problem with being a lawyer.
Sanitize it.
Yeah, let me. I have been in my fair share of metaphoric smoky back rooms where we're working with a client to accomplish something, and then down the road there's a congressional hearing or a law gets passed and people say like, how did that happen? And I go, who knows? But like that. So like, yeah, like these things, I guess what I'm saying is that is kind of how the system works, right? Like, it's similar to when we were talking about like oil and gas regulations. It's like, yeah, the Koch brothers probably had some hand in those sort of things. And similarly, on the left, because we forget that like prior to the realignment that led by Musk, every single tech guy was a Democratic booster and prominent donor until 2024. So, Obama
gave SpaceX their first contract in 2012.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with shall not be just talking about that.
When the Democrats win, they'll be donating to Democrats too, because these are companies that are big enough. And I don't think that AI is so left-right polarized that they can't get benefit. I think they're going to donate to both sides. Mm-hmm. We shall see. We shall see.
All right. Well, this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Everybody follow Lawyer Chick 5000 both on YouTube.
You got anything coming up?
Yeah, let me drop my link. I don't have anything coming up. I'm here and there. But you could always check out my my YouTube channel. But really where I put most of my new content is TikTok. I am a TikTok lawyer first and foremost. So I have a couple videos on my YouTube page, but I do have a link to Lawyer Chick 5000 on TikTok, formerly Jenny Justice. So I now just changed it. I just like the Lawyer Chick brand a little better now. So go to my TikTok. You can see hundreds of really fun legal videos, and that's where I post new ones. I might make one tonight. Got to think of something. I don't know. I haven't been as inspired to create a bunch of content. I guess I'm like locking in on more like stuff like this, just being lawyerly and showing up with licensed attorneys and trying to build with that. And this has been really cool.
Well, you gotta, if you're, I offer this with some hesitance, but we met on Sarah's show. If you haven't done it yet, you could go on Wick Show, which is another good debate panel show. But I would say that, you and I had a kind of like collegial exchange, and that is not a guarantee on these debate shows. Sometimes they can go other directions, let's just say.
Okay. Well, you know what? You have my Lawyer Chick email. Just email me links and I'll at least check them out and see, because I'm not very good at adversarial. I'm not a quick thinker. So I don't have that like lawyerness, but I will check it out. Sometimes if it's all lawyers, yes, I'm really trying to stick to just being with, licensed attorneys whenever possible.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. There's there's sometimes you get in these situations where, it's just so frustrating to have to explain the very, very basics and then fight about the very, very basics.
Yeah, or just deal with like crazy ideas. It's like, I can't. Can't.
There's a guy, I do not think you should chat with him, but there's a guy called Nick Rakita who he's had some personal issues that I don't think you'd love. But
So I heard you talking about him earlier. Who is he? Is he a content creator? Is he a YouTuber?
He's a content creator. I don't know if he's still a lawyer. He was a former lawyer. He's at least a lawyer, but he had some criminal issues that came up. So I don't know about his bar status. But there was a very funny exchange once when before I got banned by Destiny. I was just like desperately trying to explain to Destiny why he was wrong about a legal issue. And he kept saying things that were like clever and argumentative, but just wrong. And I kept saying that's not what it says, and posting screenshots of the opinion and underlining the things to show. And this went on like 4 or 5 times. And eventually Nick jumps on thread and it's just like, imagine Ryan trying to cram a whole semester of con law into one tweet thread with density. And I was like, yeah, that is kind of how this feels. Like I'm just desperately trying to catch somebody up, and at a certain point you go like, this might not be worth it. Maybe I should do something else.
Okay, I got it. And I'm seeing a cacophony. Kyle Rittenhouse. That was an interesting case as a juvenile justice person.
If I had been online, I was not online and I did not feel like it was a good idea to be online at that time. But I basically was like live tweet. I had the trial on all day. So I was live tweeting, live texting basically the trial to like my text threads of my friends. But
go on.
I would have been all over that one. I was deep in the weeds on that case.
Yeah. I mean, so for me as a juvenile justice person, spent a lot of time working on reforms and whatnot, treating kids differently. That was where you really saw, and one of the things that made me really see that become a little disillusioned with the left and that social justice movement. That is a really good example of where you could, people in the chat, if you ever want to call out the left, that is the best case. And I'll tell you why. Because Kyle Rittenhouse was a child. He was 17. Without even seeing the video, and I did, he really was working in self-defense. But without seeing that, you, as any like human rights or child rights or juvenile justice person, you should be arguing that Kyle Rittenhouse be charged as a juvenile and be charged in juvenile court and treated like a kid, first and foremost. And that's not what was happening. The left is like, he should fry, he should go to prison for life, he should get the death penalty. They really came out on this kid. All the BLM folks who, were just a part, like decrease mass incarceration, prison abolitionists. You come at me as like, because I really started doing like prisoner condition work and stuff like that, prisoner rights work way back. And like, there's all these abolitionists, people that just want to abolish prisons. Man, people come at me as an abolitionist and then say Kyle Rittenhouse should like be treated any differently than any child that you would want to be treated anywhere as a child. Miss me with that. So that is a very important sort of turning point for me in my personal, professional morality, really.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm glad he got off.
I think for a lot of us, for me, I went into it and I had this assumption that he had crossed state lines with a gun that he had illegally and then shot a bunch of black people. That's what, before the trial started, that's what I believed happened. And I believed that because, I had not yet realized how our media operates. They rarely lie, but they will create an impression carefully by the way they curate headlines and so I had all this information that turns out every single piece of information I just said was false. He did not cross state lines with the gun. The gun was legal. He did not shoot any black people. Like everything I thought I knew about the trial, I was wrong about. And afterwards, one of the things I had to ask myself is, how did I come to acquire so much bad information? And it made me reevaluate my media practices because I was far too trusting in the way that I consumed information as a result, I was just wrong.
I've been caught in a couple of those webs myself. And I look back on that and go, damn. So we'll do this again soon. Have a great New Year's holiday break.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
I'm going to hop off and let you close your show. Good night, everybody. Deuces, follow Lawyer Schick, and I'll put announcements up when I do stuff.
Thanks for coming on, and give her a follow. Good to see you always.
Good night.
Bye. Okay, well, that was fun. Always a pleasure to see her. She's lovely. I'm glad that we went through the executive order a little bit line by line, because it's just like the flag burning one. Like it's so easy to assume that things are going to be over the top or done in kind of a ham-handed way. But I actually found that executive order to be totally reasonable. I had no issue with that at all.
We will hear argument first this morning in case 24-109.
foremost on their mind was.
So let's put this back up. Unless okay. Yeah, Jesus Christ. That was actually that's when I learned about Destiny, was that debate. Yeah, that was a stomping. It's so funny how inconsistent his legal team is. I don't quite understand how it works this way, but I've been thinking about this a lot, because, like, if you think about the lawyers who came up with his immigration policy, where they found the Alien Enemies Act, and they came up with all these arguments about, does the court have jurisdiction over a plane that's already in the air, that sort of thing. That came up with the boat strike policy as a gray area within the law, that came up, that crafted these executive orders. These are really sophisticated lawyers doing really sophisticated work. And then you look at, like, the prosecution of James Comey, which was just a fucking debacle. You look at the Epstein release, which is just a fucking debacle. It's really strange to me that Trump is getting incredible legal advice in some areas and just garbage tier advice in other areas. It's very strange. It's very strange. But anyway, I in particular want to see his argument, because he's going to give a good argument for maintaining birthright citizenship, and I want to know what it is so that I can be ready to respond if I get a good one.
To grant citizenship to the freed slaves, and also, to blacks more generally, as a result of the Dred Scott overturning the Dred Scott opinion. And they could have said just that. That they were overturning Dred Scott and giving citizenship to people of African descent, but they didn't say that. They used the broader phrase jurisdiction.
Okay, so I think this is the main line argument I'm going to get from people. They're going to say, "Look, we know that the 14th Amendment was meant to overturn Dred Scott. We know that the Civil Rights Act had broader language about limiting birthright citizenship previously, but Congress, in their wisdom, ratified, the people ratified the 14th with the language it currently has, which has this language about jurisdiction, and jurisdiction should be understood using the dictionary definition from that time period, which, according to him, is this broad conception of being subject to the laws of the place. So if that's true, then, of course, we should interpret the 14th Amendment broadly." Question: are illegal immigrants currently subject to a draft? I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good question. I know back... let's look at the selective services rule. Immigrants. U.S. immigrants are required by law to register with the Selective Service System 30 days after their 18th birthday or 30. Okay. So it looks like you are supposed to register for the draft even if you are here illegally. Now, here's an interesting point. If you're here illegally, what do you bet you're not doing this? Because, they always say it's not a crime. That's a good... Is it a crime to fail to register for the draft? I think it probably is. Yeah, so it is a crime. So I should probably know. So I bet you that a lot of them aren't doing it. But yes, illegal immigrants are supposed to register for the draft. But people who are here temporarily Like if you're here on a visa, you're not required to register for the draft. Good question. That's a very good question.
Jurisdiction. And I would have to say, contrary to my fellow panelists, I don't see any ambiguity in jurisdiction at all. There was a single meaning of jurisdiction, and it meant under authority. And so they used that, and then they were clearly understanding that their language was broader than simply focused on people of African descent, because they had this extended discussion of the people of Chinese descent, and they understood that their language would indeed encompass those people. And there were people at the time who objected to that on policy grounds, but there wasn't any dispute about the scope of the language. And so I think what you have is they used very broad language to accomplish, yes, a narrow objective with respect to overturning the Dred Scott case, but also to establish a broad rule. They understood that they were establishing a broad rule, and so I think it's the broad rule that we're left with.
So I don't know if you caught that, but he was saying that they were talking about excluding the Chinese during that ratification period, so they must have taken that into account. Now, this is, I think, where Amy Swearer's research into the significance of being of being a merchant rather than a laborer matters, because that you can get into Wong Kim Ark stuff from there. But that's a well-structured argument. So his points are, let's run through it. There's a definition of jurisdiction. He does not think the definition of jurisdiction is unclear. He thinks it's unambiguous. He recognizes the context of Dred Scott, but he says that they nonetheless adopted broader language, and they could adopt a broader language to affect their purpose than they had to. And that broader language created universal birthright citizenship.
Oh, and last word will go to Trent.
Oh,
One thing I'll add is that
shit, I skipped ahead a lot. Oops. I skipped ahead way too much. Let's see if this is the right place.
To the children of Chinese immigrants, without trying to figure out whether the Chinese immigrants were legal or illegal, whether they were temporary or permanent residents, but instead they just chalked as a undistinct and not distinct set of categories of immigrants, but just generally about immigrants. And I think that shows that they were thinking of a very broad view of subject jurisdiction and therefore citizenship, with the exclusion of diplomats, invading armies, and other people who might have some kind of international law immunity. So in sum, I think the original meaning is quite clear.
Oh, hold on. He showed up. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Hello.
Hey. How you been?
I've been wonderful. Yeah, I was told 8:30, and then I got a message it was over, and then fuck it, I'll hit the link.
Yeah, all good, buddy. Yeah, I thought she was passing the link on to you, but we can talk separately. All good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, I'm here now. I'm happy to do the whatever.
Yeah, we met on Sarah's show, right?
Yes. Yeah. You were arguing that the Department of Education, the federal one, anyone, should meet Jesus, or perhaps in more specific terms, be abolished.
Yeah, and that was funny because Lawyer Chick, I've never been in a debate where my opponent conceded and agreed with me on essentially every point I raised. So she's a lovely person, but it was a different experience because I kept being like, and the Department of Education is this terrible policy, and she was like, yeah, that is terrible, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess
all right.
well,
as long as we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Well, she said that you've been working with AI to develop like legal tech. Is that right?
Oh yeah. So I want to get to know you just a little bit here, and I know I should know this, but since we're going to be talking about, so you're an attorney.
Yeah.
What type of attorney are you?
I am a commercial litigator, and primarily, I mean, that's a broad category, and the work is broad. But like a lot of cross-border litigation, a lot of big company smashing big company, and then increasingly some plaintiff side work as well. So kind of a broad ambit of, when people are really in the weeds on who gets the money, that's when I get the phone call.
Yeah, well, so I'm a litigator. I'm pro se, but I have a pending appeal in the Fourth Circuit and a live subsection 1983 case in the Eastern District of Virginia. And I've argued in, I think, 3 states, and then the federal law is new. All that just to say we have some shared vocabulary, so feel free to lean into that. Disclaimer, not an attorney. However, did run, I got 20% of the vote in a primary for a state Senate race. So we're going for the lawmaker part, and then everything's separate from that. So just
if you don't mind me asking, why are you litigating pro se so much?
Well, because so it's your show, and I'm a guest, so we can go wherever you want to go.
No. I mean, if you don't want to, that's totally fine.
No, it's fine. I don't mind.
Curious.
I don't mind even in the least. So attorneys are fucking expensive. I've spent like $300,000 on them. And so there's some problems with this. Part of it is if you're having an issue, right, whatever it is, you're going to care more individually than an attorney will, right? And I'm not saying attorneys don't care. I'm just saying you live that, all the facts, you're in that. Now, the other side of that is, again, it's expensive, man. Like currently I'm currently suing 3 sitting state court judges, a law firm, a clerk, and an attorney. And then they all defaulted, and then the judge saved their ass and fabricated some extension for them. So I've got that set up for the default ready to go, the appeal. If I lose, we're at motion to dismiss stage right now. So I filed an amended complaint. They didn't file a response in time. Then the judge said, we prefer a judgment on merits. Well, yeah, but they're trying to dismiss anyway on jurisdiction. So why don't we just go to merits, split the baby? Anyway, all that to say, huge fan of, I like litigation. I like the structure of argument. And so that's a part of where especially if you're used to actual litigation, right? Lawyer chick's even more surprising when she concedes something. Because you're like,
never concede anything. Yeah. Okay. And you said it was a 1983. So this is a deprivation of civil rights sort of case.
Yeah. So the quick and dirty on it is cases need to be final, and that's what triggers the appeal. What region do you practice in, or what courts are you in? If you feel like
I'm primarily in like the Manhattan area, so I'm SDNY, Second Circuit, First Circuit. That's okay, primarily. Yeah. Though I do litigate all over the country, but that's my home. That's my home turf.
Yeah. Well, so you know what a final order is, then, right?
Yes.
So there's a court in Virginia that's very confused on this concept. And it's jurisdiction specific in some ways. But I'll ask you this: if let's say you had a case and there was a final order entered, have you ever heard anyone argue that part of it was final and part of it was not?
No, that would be, as phrased, that would be unusual. Yeah, that seems off. Though I'm currently litigating a case where our opponent just keeps challenging we have a money judgment, and she keeps saying that she'd like to introduce new evidence, and we're like,
we already did that all you want, but at that stage, the train has left the station, my friend.
Yeah, we had a jury trial. You lost. Like you don't get to introduce more evidence. It's over. But yeah, as described, that does sound strange.
Yeah, and that's the premise of it. Is basically I'm saying there's an underlying family court issue. Without getting to the weeds into it, we can. I think the AI discussion's a bit more interesting. Yeah. But the basic premise on it is there was a final order entered in 2023, and as recent May of 2023, and as recent as August of 2025, they're saying they can still enter orders without reopening the case. I have a differing opinion. One of the things that's nice for me is the Fourth Circuit. 2 years ago, there was a judicial immunity case, Gibson v. Goldston, and a family court judge left the bench. Imagine this scenario. You've been in a courtroom before. This sounds crazy. Okay, let me do this.
What you mean?
Okay, so there you are in the courtroom. You're a defendant.
Man, you had that locked and loaded.
I did. This is yeah. So the Honorable Joshua Stacey now presides, and then decides. Oh, guess what? So there's this divorced couple in West Virginia. A year after the divorce, the ex-wife files a motion saying, "Hey, he didn't give me the umbrella stand, the DVDs, and 4 pictures, whatever the hell it is." Go to court. The judge says, to the ex-husband, "What's your address?" Imagine this. The judge calls a recess and orders everybody, including the bailiff, to show up at the guy's house. Then, taking off her shoes and going into the home, she oversees a search and a seizure of the offending items. And she ends up, so this is before the Fourth Circuit, it gets argued. It's awesome. The oral argument's hilarious. And they're like, yeah, see, the bench, right? It's a three-person panel. I'm assuming it's the same in most circuits. Anyway. The judges keep going. They're like, it's kind of a separation of powers thing. If you're a judge, you adjudicate.
Yeah,
you're not a part-time deputy. And so, yeah. So then Fourth Circuit said, 3-judge panel, unanimous. You don't have judicial immunity when you step over to the executive function. And so when you're in enforcement land, you now have stepped in it, and they torched judicial immunity. And so that was kind of a big deal case there. And that's in the district I'm in right now, saying judges have overstepped. So, yeah. Well, which actually sort of transitions into